It's Wednesday on Jasiri, and today we turn our focus to those who often have the least power but the most to lose, our children. Now, every day across Nigeria, children face abuse, neglect and violence, sometimes in the very places meant to protect them. Their homes, schools, even places of worship. Yet behind the statistics are real lives, boys and girls whose trust has been broken, whose innocence is stolen, and whose cries too often go unheard. So how do we build a country where children are truly safe, not just in words or laws, but in everyday life? We have a child protection advocate standing by. He's a man whose personal journey from surviving violence to becoming a voice for the voiceless challenges us all to rethink what it really means to protect Nigeria's children. That conversation comes up shortly, but first,
every year, thousands of women across Nigeria lose their lives to cervical cancer, a disease that is both preventable and treatable when caught early. Yet for many families, awareness remains low, access to screening is limited, and conversations about prevention are almost non-existent. That is why platforms like BellaNaija are stepping forward with purpose. Their new campaign, #StopHPV4Her, is raising national awareness about HPV, the virus that causes most cases of cervical cancer, and the critical importance of early protection, especially for girls aged 9 to 14. Today on Jasiri, we'll be talking about this campaign, what inspired it, why early detection matters, and how we can all play a part in protecting the next generation of Nigerian women. Joining us today is Dr. Adefunke Arowolo. Dr. Arowolo, welcome to Jasiri.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Lola was just talking about hearing you talk about all these medical things, and it's really important for us to have this conversation that pertains to young women across the country. So HPV is something we hear about often, but a lot of people don't quite understand it. So in just very relatable, very simple terms, can you break it down for us for something that will click for parents and especially young girls? And we'll get to young girls and young people in just a moment, but something that makes it very relatable.
Okay, so HPV simply stands for human papillomavirus. So it's a sexually transmitted virus, right? And the point is that about 80% of sexually active people will be exposed to this virus at one point or the other, right? And the thing about it is that there are different strains of the virus. So it's like a parent that decides to give birth to maybe 30 children. I'm just using this as an example. So not all 30 of those children will be bad, but there might be some really bad eggs that will cause serious problem in the society. So that's the way HPV is. There are particular strains that cause problems, such as cervical cancer and other kinds of cancer. But the emphasis today is on cervical cancer, right? Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, Doctor, there's this widespread belief that, HPV vaccine is only for young girls, right? So can you help us understand who should be getting it and why 9 to 14 years of age? Why the 9 to 14 years of age window is very, very critical? Okay,
so the rationale behind it, like I said, is that most people that are sexually active, about 85%, will be exposed to the virus. So you want to vaccinate them before they are exposed. So the assumption is that we don't expect you to be sexually active between that age range. So it's more protective, or it's protective when you're not already exposed to the virus. So that's why it's not that older adults can't get the vaccine, but whereas we want to catch you before you're exposed. And also immunity is assumed to be better at that age as well.
So, I'm so sorry, Lola, yes, there's a thing about it being only for girls. Is that true? No. Is this fact? Because HPV will not discriminate by gender, will it?
Exactly. So the thing is that the human papillomavirus, right, it causes cancer in boys as well, or in men as well. So it can also cause anal cancer, esophageal cancer. So it's actually also important. So for me, I would advocate that we vaccinate both our boys and our girls, because if the boys don't have it, they will not pass it to the girls as well. So I think it's a global thing, not just for the female. But based on this campaign, we're focusing on the female.
Well, unfortunately for some, they've missed that window. So if you missed that window, is it like bye-bye to that vaccine for you? Or can we play catch-up if you haven't delved into the waters and you're a little older? Or whether you are swimming already, can it still help?
Yes, absolutely. So this window is just a guideline. But we have what we call catch-up vaccination. So people that have missed that window can still get the vaccination. But bear in mind that it will only protect you if you are not exposed to that strain already. But if you have been exposed to that strain, it will not protect that particular, does that make sense, virus? Yes. So the point is that you want to be vaccinated before exposure. So that being said, a complete virgin that has never been sexually exposed, that is maybe 25, can get the vaccination. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I find this interesting. Is it one dose? Because I know there are some vaccines that are
like
one
3
dose, and then
times.
maybe 15 years later you're doing a booster dose. What's the sort of conversation around the HPV vaccine?
Okay, for HPV, right, it is 1 dose, but it used to be 2, but now there are vaccinations that are just 1. So the rationale is that the one, when it was 2, right, it was 1 month after the first dose, not up to 12. It's not years.
Yeah.
But the thing is that in certain population, the immunocompromised would advise 2 or 3 doses actually, based on the health practitioner and their advice. So if the person is if the child is immunocompromised for whatever reason, maybe the child is HIV positive or has some chronic illness, the child might need more than 1 dose actually.
So that actually leads me to my next question, because I know a lot of parents are probably very cautious. There's a vaccine hesitancy that we've seen on the rise in recent years, not just in Nigeria, but around the world as well. And then also, if you have a child, as you said, who's immunocompromised or may have existing health conditions, people want reassurance. They want guidance about what the vaccine, about the vaccine safety as it may be. So we often hear also that vaccines and screening go hand in hand. So Dr. Arowolo, it was Lolo that broke it down for us this morning. We have seen money to use. I love it. But anyway, we often hear about vaccination and screening go hand in hand. So for girls, teens, and women, what should regular HPV screening look like? How often should it be done? What kind of guidance and assurance can you give parents? And I can say from a personal experience, my daughter actually got the vaccine earlier this year. I know Lagos State was doing it, and me and my husband had to have a conversation. And and I said, this is the age. She's 10. So we got her the vaccine this year because, again, for that cervical cancer prevention, for exposure to whatever it is, it's the early window as you've spoken about. So I'm a parent sitting here who's gotten a vaccination for my child, and I'm very sure of what I've done. So, but I know other parents will need some guidance, some reassurance.
Okay, fantastic. So the thing is that I want you to see the vaccination as a life insurance, right? It's like you're securing your child's future, because a future that is protected, if their future is not protected, they can't actually achieve the dreams. Because I've seen people die from cervical cancer, and it's not cute, it's not pretty at all. So if we have something, I feel like this is the best time, right? Because the vaccines are available. Years ago, we didn't have the privilege of having the vaccine. And if it's something so little that can prevent something so bad, I think it's something to be grateful for, right? Because cervical cancer is one of the few cancers that has a cause that you can pinpoint it that 90% of the time is the human papillomavirus. No other cancer is like that, right? Because if it's breast cancer, we can assume
some level of genetics,
genetics, family history, maybe your diet, all those things. They are just risk factors. But cervical cancer is one thing. And I want to reassure parents that the vaccine is very safe. It's not like they woke up yesterday and created the vaccine. It is years of research. They have tried it. It doesn't cause fertility issues. And it's not for people that are promiscuous, because some parents think that, if my child is not promiscuous, they don't need. No, one exposure to HPV virus from one person can actually cause the cancer. So it is very safe. It is something that years of research has gone into, right? And they don't just 10 years or more, they do their research before bringing out the vaccine. I know that the whole COVID vaccine caused a lot of uproar and all that. But let's understand that COVID was something new, and they were under pressure to bring out vaccines for it. They weren't under pressure to bring out vaccine for HPV. They took their time with it. So it is 100% safe. There's no side effects, at least no side effects recorded so far and all that. And then to your question about screening, yes, screening goes hand in hand. So I had my pap smear yesterday. So it's every 3 years from the age of 21.
And you do it around your birthday, right?
Yes.
That's the helpful reminder.
So yeah, so it's every 3 years from the age of 21, right? And it helps you. The beautiful thing about pap smear is that you can pick the precancerous growth 10 to 15 years. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
10 to 15 years before it becomes cancer. So you have that long grab. So cervical cancer is something we can easily eradicate. We have the tools. Pap smear, 10 to 15 years. The vaccination protecting 90%. What else do we need? So that is why a campaign like this, conversation like this, we need to normalize it. We need to alleviate fear of the vaccine and all that. It is safe. It is very safe.
Now, speaking of alleviating fears, right? I know so many women actually are scared of, taking the vaccine. And you did talk about how a lot of women feel that it causes fertility issues. What are some of the other biggest myths that you've encountered, about this particular vaccine?
I think it's still this fertility issue thing.
That's the major one.
That's the major one. And then the old promiscuity. A lot of people think that, it's
an excuse.
Yes, it's an excuse that you become promiscuous because it's sexually transmitted. But it's not just sexual. It's not just, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
Yes, that's fine, yeah.
It's not just through penetrative sex. Even body-to-body contact, right? Yes. Body-to-body contact of the genitals.
Sweat?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not just through penetrative sex. Do you understand? So yeah, I feel the main reason is actually fertility. It's the fertility. People think, it's fertility. That's the one I have encountered. It's fertility.
I think this campaign, this hashtag Stop HPV for Her, is quite important. And now that BellaNaija is, pushing this, making it a national conversation, a lot of people are talking about it. What would you say inspired it, and how is it helping communities, understand HPV prevention in a new way? Because it's still, to some people, this is still novel.
Yeah.
We've never heard of it. Yes.
Okay. So it's just the same way when HIV came out and there was a lot of stigmatization then, and there was a lot of campaign. I feel like if we keep talking about this, right, the whole point is to normalize the conversation. So going for your pap smear becomes normal to you. Getting your child vaccinated becomes normal to you. Is to keep talking about it, alleviating fear, so that we normalize it. And I am hopeful that we can eradicate cervical cancer in the future. Because if we're able to do, if we're going to put prevention in hand, we have the preventive tools already.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't see any reason why we can't eradicate cervical cancer in the next 5 to 10 years, actually. So it's conversations like this, because if we have something to prevent it, why are we not talking about? Why are we not utilizing it, right? If you know that, the chances of you being shot, maybe you're in a very volatile region, and you have been given bulletproof, and you know that the chances of you being shot is maybe 30%, and you die. Why not wear the bulletproof, and they're giving you for free? Yeah. So that's the way I see it.
Such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Arowolo, for spreading awareness about HPV and the vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. A big thank you also to BellaNaija for also picking up this campaign and putting it in front and center. Now, after the break, our guest went from survivor to advocate. Taiwo Akinlami's journey is both painful and powerful. But beyond his personal story lies a question we must all confront. How did we become a society where violence against children is normalized, and what will it take to break the cycle? When we come back, we'll hear from Taiwo himself about his path from pain to purpose and what Nigeria must do to truly protect its children. This is Jasiri. Stay with us.
Now today on Jasiri, we confront one of the hardest truths about our society: the violence we allow, excuse, or overlook when it happens to children. Across Nigeria, countless boys and girls suffer in silence, abused in their homes, neglected in schools, and ignored by systems meant to protect them. For many, childhood becomes a battle for survival rather than a season of safety. Too many childhoods are marked not by laughter and learning, but by pain, fear, and silence. Physical abuse, sexual violence, neglect, happening in homes, schools, churches, mosques, and on our streets. Yet the outrage is fleeting, and accountability almost never comes. Behind every headline is a child whose trust was broken, a parent unsure where to turn, and a society that too often looks away. We talk about the future belonging to the children, but how do we protect that future if we can't even protect them in the present? Our guest knows that pain firsthand. He grew up as a victim of abuse, walked a very difficult path from victim to perpetrator, and finally found healing in becoming a protector and advocate for children's rights. His story is a mirror, not just a personal transformation, but of how deeply society's failures can shape and scar the next generation. Taiwo Akinlami is a child safeguarding and protection innovator and family attorney. Taiwo, welcome to Jasiri.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you, Taiwo. Now, let's start simply. Can you take us back to your childhood? What was your earliest memory of violence or even abuse at home, where where you should have been the safest?
Okay, thank you very much for having me once again. When I talk about my story, one thing that comes to mind is the fact that childhood is not given. Childhood is a state of life that requires direction. And once that direction is not given, then a painful journey is set for the child. So I was born March 24, 1970. I was not born with any spoon, no silver, no gold. I just came, and myself and my brother came as twins, and my parents had a daughter who did not survive, and so we, became the first children that my parents had. And when they had us, they were joyful, they were glad, and they named me Oluwawemimo and named my twin brother Olubumi. That is, the Lord has rolled away my reproach. And that was their intention when they gave me that name. I was a child who came to roll away reproach. But no sooner than I landed, I think my behavior did not conform with their expectation. And so without touching my birth certificate, they changed that name to, abusive names. So for me, I did not know innocence. If childhood was synonymous with innocence, I never knew innocence. My first experience of abuse was at age 6. I was, at age 6, I started primary school, and my mother would go to the market, leave me with a neighbor. My father would also go to the office. My father worked with the defunct National Bank. And so when I returned from school, I was to stay with this woman. And this woman would strip me naked from age 6, do with a 6-year-old boy what a woman should be doing with a man. And that went on serially for like 2 years, between age 6 and 8. I think what happened at age 8, we moved out of that place. And I think our movement out of that place was what rescued me, because my parents never knew the experience I was having with that woman. So that's the first contact with abuse. And of course, my sexuality was awoken before I understood what it meant. And so when other children were seeing, aunties, I was seeing sex partners. When children, we went to have hide and seek, myself and other children were, already exposed, at that level. And so that's my first contact. Then I also experienced physical abuse. My father said I was a stubborn child. And when he wanted to cane me, he would tie my hands, tie my legs, strip me naked. And he would save all the punishments. No matter what I did during the week, he won't talk. On Saturday, after breakfast, he would lock the door and strip me naked, tie my hands, tie my legs. Then he would sit on his seat where he was the only one who sat, and he would give me 3 strokes of the cane, and that would go on for half a day. Give me 3 strokes, allow me to rest, then come back and cane me, and that would go on for half a day. And we lived in my face apartment in Ado-Ekiti, where everybody minded their business except gossip. Nobody was coming for me. And how do you look at your child and say, you are a useless child only comparable to a dog? How do you look at your child and say, Abira Adinu, that is, when I gave birth to you, The pain I went through giving birth to you was a loss. You are a useless child. Now, that's emotional abuse. And science has said, for every wrong word you say against a child, you need 17 to correct it. Wow. And all my child, I was hearing all of those wrong words. And at age 9, let me just say this and I will stop there. At age 9, I was, at age 10, I was in primary 3. I should have been in primary 3 at age 9, but something happened, which I may talk about as we go on, if time permits us. So I was, my school was renovated, and Sarudin Primary School at Doekiti was renovated. And the carpenters brought this carpenter's bench. They put it in the middle of the school, something they should not do. During break, one of these days, myself and my friend, whose name was Dada, we went to that place and we were putting one of the planks that they left behind. We'll climb on it, to the other side of the bench. And when it was Dada's turn to go on that bench, the branch on which Dada was standing broke and he went straight into his stomach. I raised an alarm.
Okay, it seems we're having some network connection or technical issues with Taiwo there. I'm sure we'll get him back very shortly, but he's already laid a very, unfortunately, very disturbing foundation for our conversation with him today. And what is, I think, much more disturbing, Taiwo's back, but what is much more disturbing is that it is not a unique experience, unfortunately.
It is.
Taiwo, please go ahead and finish the story you were telling us, and then we'll get into how these experiences have shaped you so far. Please go ahead, Taiwo.
So my teacher looked at me at age 9, because Dada was rushed to the hospital. I don't know where the line was cut off. So Dada, we were climbing a tree. We were climbing a plank that was left in the school. It was Dada's turn to go on the plank, and when he got to the middle of the plank broke into two, went straight into his tummy. I raised an alarm. He was rushed to the hospital, and news came back to school that Dada had died, right? And it was during our break time that news came. I was walking into the classroom, and my teacher was writing on the board, and she paused and looked at me in the presence of all the children and said, "This boy, Taiwo Akinlami, as from today, call him Satan. Devil is the one who killed that boy." And so from age 10 in primary 3, in primary school, everybody called me devil. Now note, if they gave you a nickname in school that you did not like, you will complain to your teacher. When your teacher was the one who sat in judgment and pronounced that name upon you, it was a done deal. It was a fait accompli. There was nowhere to go. At age 13 or 14, I was playing, a fellow student was beating me, in secondary school. And one day I just got angry and I pushed him on the nose and he started bleeding. I was hurrying to the office of the principal, Reverend Father Adefunke, St. Joseph's College, Ondo. The principal did not ask me any question. He didn't ask me what happened. Because I was the one who punched the boy, I was guilty on the face of it. And they just took his pen and paper and put my name on one book and told me I just wrote your name in the black book of the school. Now, those are my experiences. I mean, I say with most profound conviction that I was not raised, I was erased.
Taiwo, listening to all of this, and I was saying just as you came back now, that unfortunately these experiences are not unique. But I want to continue to talk about your background, your upbringing. How did this exposure, one, to the abuse and to the violence at home, to the sexual violence at the hands of a neighbor at 6 years old, how did these formative experiences change your perception of yourself and of the world around you? You spoke about science showing that for every negative word you speak to a child, you have to say 17 positive to sort of erase that. And I know many children who wake up every day being cursed in this country or being insulted in this country, and it forms them. How did these formative experiences change your perception of yourself and the world around you?
Well, words are mirrors. When you are introduced to yourself, you are introduced by a name that your parents give to you. Now, those names that they give to you is an expression of their desire towards you. So I was named Oluwawemimo. That was the intention of my parents. This child is a sign that the Lord has rolled away my reproach. Right? Growing up, it became clear to them that this one is a reproach by virtue of their own conclusion by reason of my behavior, which was a function of my environment. Because the truth of the matter is that children are either beneficiaries or casualties of our examples. Now, children do what they see. Our words are mirrors. So the impact of that on me was that I arrived at adulthood at the age of 18 as a shadow of myself. You know, I was not suffering from low self-esteem. I was suffering from no esteem. Now, my sexuality was already awoken, so in school, I was anything under scared. I mean, I was, think about any sexual perversion in the world, apart from incest, right? And, you know, sleeping with an animal, I think I tried it. Are you getting it? Growing up. Now, I never raped anybody. I never had any such experience, but I had mutual relationships in the university, right? Even before the university, I had nasty experiences. I was hooked on pornography. I was hooked on masturbation. I was hooked on all of those things, you know. It was a terrible weight that I was carrying as a young person between age 18 and 27. Between age 18 and 27, I was expected to be the leader of my own life, the shepherd of my own soul. But I was directionless, right? My life only began to find meaning at age 27 when I became a person of faith, you know. And that is the beginning of my journey into meaning, you know, because I began to understand, becoming a person of faith, that God has a plan for my life different from the one that my parents, you know, executed. Now, the truth of the matter is that my parents were not wicked people. They were not evil. What happened to them was that they were also products of their own childhood. You know, you can't give what you don't have. There are three things parents must have if they must raise meaningful children and they must preserve the destiny of children. One, parents must have knowledge. Knowledge is what to do. My parents lacked that. Parents must have skill. Skill, S-K-I-L-L, is how to do the things you know you should do. Then attitude is the fortitude to do that which you know you should do. When you lack those three, you know, you are obviously going to make a shipwreck of the life of children. And so when I became an attorney, September 28, 1999, I was called to the Nigerian bar. My uncle, Chief Ganifami, was the one who sent me to school. I mean, he took over my education after my secondary education when my father could not continue. And the idea was that I was going to work in his law firm. And I declared to the family after I graduated from the law school that I wasn't going to work with him because I've now become a person of faith. I've seen the damage that bad parenting, lack of protection for children can do. And I was on a journey. And I was finding help. I felt that I was going to be on the street instead of being in the courtrooms to educate parents, to educate teachers, to educate educators, to educate religious leaders, to let them understand that abuse of children is preventable. And the only way we can prevent it is to sign up for what we call enlightenment. We say enlightenment is superior to enforcement.
Barrister
Akinlami, has been a journey.
Yeah, very interesting and touching story because we can learn from all the things that you are saying. I know that now you're a husband and a father. How do you think being a survivor of abuse, sexual abuse, and has particularly shaped how you show up as a father? Or did it even have any impact on your relationship with women? Because when abuse happens in different ways, it can shape how we relate with the opposite gender. And now that you're a father, you are learning from what used to be better. So what would you say the dynamics is like for you now as a husband and a father?
Well, thank you very much, my sister. Good to see you. Good to see you. Now, I got married at the age of 36. That was 19 years ago. I couldn't have gotten married earlier because when I became a person of faith, I was 27. And I was just a bundle of problems. I couldn't at that point carry another person with me. I myself, I needed help. A sick person must not attempt to donate blood. That would be suicidal. So I first focused on myself. For the first 9 years of my life, I was trying to find my level. I was trying to find healing for my soul. Though for me, that healing is a lifetime journey. It's not something, even up to today, I'm still in the laboratory of change. So after 9 years, after becoming a person of faith, I got married. And to a large extent, I think that I got married as somebody who has understood that I was in a journey, I needed help. And so I married a woman also who understand a lot of that. She doesn't come from my own kind of background. Our backgrounds are completely different. But she has a level of understanding of the kind of background I came from because she was fully briefed, even before we got married. So I think that our marriage has been wonderful, has been great. Of course, with normal challenges that come with marriages and relationships. For me, I saw my father pounded my mother, right? I have been prosecution witness with my siblings. My siblings and I have been prosecution witnesses when my father and my mother will fight, and they will not be able to settle it, and they will take themselves, while they are fighting, people will come and separate them, you face me, I face you, and they will take them to the sitting room of the landlord. And now the question is, they will be asking me who first hit who. And it didn't matter who first hit who. I had to testify for my father, because my father was the breadwinner, and he was the one that could terrorize anybody. So whether it was the one who first hit my mother, or it was my mother that first hit him, it must be that I must testify that it was my mother that first hit my father, and all my siblings must do the same thing. But I've been married for 19 years. By God's grace, we've not witnessed one case of domestic violence. We've not witnessed cases of violence in any form, right? There are disagreements, there are issues. When two people live together, they are trying to do life together. But I mean, it's been wonderful, right? Now, raising a child, my story is unique. I did have my first child until age 51, 15 years after we got married. 15 years after we got married, we had our first child. And the boy is going to be 4, October 25th. That's when he's going to be 4 years old. So I'm raising my first child in my twilight. And I think the child could not have come at a better time. It has come at a time where I think I've learned a lot, working with so many parents. I've learned a lot working with so many educators. I've learned a lot raising many children under my roof, cousins, my nephews, my nieces, and all of that. So at this time that I'm raising my son, there's a lot of experience to lean on. But the truth of the matter again is that I'm raising a son in my twilight in a changing world. Mm-hmm. All the things I used to be when I was growing up, or when I could have started raising children early, all of those things are changing. You have the dynamics of digital experiences. You have the dynamics of belief system that is changing in the world. You have the dynamics of everybody speaking their truths. You have the dynamics of politics becoming something that everybody is interested in, because it's now clear to us that it impacts our lives in different ways. So there are a lot of dynamics. And so for me, I'm learning from my experience. I'm taking every day by as it comes. But one fundamental thing I must say, I'm not a perfect parent, neither am I a perfect husband. But I can say categorically that the marriage I have is far, far better than the one that my parents had. My marriage is an improvement on the one that my father had. Now, I can also say my parenting is not perfect. It's also an improvement on the parenting that my parents gave. Now, this is what is going to happen.
All right, Taiwo.
My son,
we'll come to that in a moment.
Come to that. So, I must say, your story hits hard, and your story shows how trauma can transform someone's actions. But in your view, how often do children exposed to violence become perpetrators, and how much is this predictable by context?
Okay, so you see, a fruit does not fall too far from the tree. A fruit does not fall too far from the tree. a lot of us are products of our experiences. Nobody comes to this world and just becomes something.
Yeah.
We are influenced one way or the other. The book that I read says, train up a child the way he should go. When he's old, he will not depart
from it.
He's not going to depart from it. So departure becomes difficult when the foundation has been laid. The book also says, if the foundation is faulty, what shall the righteous do? The righteous is going to be helpless. So once the foundation of the life of a child is not properly laid, we send the child on an errand of confusion, almost a lifetime. Now, the impact of wrong upbringing is eternal, except there is divine intervention. And even when there is divine intervention, it's a lot of work. People keep relapsing sometimes. And that is why it is not out of place to look for help. That is why it is not out of place to find healing. It is important to note that healing, time does not heal any wound. Time and effort, time and treatment. If anybody experiences the kind of childhood that I experienced, I love what you said at the beginning of the program. It is not unique. Many people go through that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Many people are even in denial. Many people don't even discuss it. Now, but the truth of the matter is that even religious organizations don't touch it. You know, they just talk to people as if they became who they are when they became adults, forgetting that human beings are like onions, layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of influence. Make me who I am today. I speak the way I speak because of influence, right? I do things the way I do things because of influence. Most of this influence has become reflexive, so that it's reflex. What responds when a situation happens is my program, is my reflex. So what I've been doing since a 2017 date is reprogramming, mind sterilization, trying to undo what was done in childhood. I must tell you, it's a difficult attempt. I must tell you, it's a very, very difficult life. When somebody told me, oh, maybe you went through all that you went through so that you can be doing all that you are doing today, I said no. I said no. It is not God's plan for me to go through what I went through. God did not create me for abuse. God did not create me to be sexually molested at the age of 6. God did not create me to be tied and beaten like a chicken or a goat or a ram. No, God did not. That was not God's plan. God's plan was for me to be treasured, was for me to be nurtured, was for me to be raised according to his will. But somebody lost the script. My parents lost the script. They didn't get the script. So they managed the script. Upon mismanaging the script, God in his infinite mercy found me at the age of 27 because he proposed that before the world began. So he came and found me at the age of 27 and began to show me another way. And this way became my life. And this life became my message. That is what has happened to me.
Taiwo.
So nobody is going to get away with the problem of childhood. Nobody is going to get away with it. You have to address it. If you don't address it, you are going to find yourself effortlessly, repeating your error in your children.
So Taiwo, that's the point I want us to go to. There are a few things I want, again, I love data, and you've mentioned it before. Data shows that children who are victims of sexual violence, victims of abuse, who see their parents, whether it's the man or the woman being abused at home, have a higher level of potentially becoming abusers or abusees themselves or victims themselves. It's just something, as you said, that is shaped in childhood. But in particular with Nigeria, we are inundated almost every day now on the front page of a newspaper or hidden somewhere in the pages of a newspaper. You're hearing about sexual violence towards children. That comes from the home. That comes from the community. What are the social, cultural, or even economic factors that you think might make children in Nigeria particularly vulnerable to cycles of abuse? I'm not saying abuse happens only in Nigeria, but we're talking about this in a localized context for ourselves. Yes. What happens? Why does it seem that our children seem to be so vulnerable to these things in the country?
Well, let me first say that abuse is a global phenomenon, particularly child sexual abuse. The report on violence against children in Nigeria, since we are talking about Nigeria, makes it abundantly clear that 1 out of every 4 girls is sexually molested. 1 out of every 10 boys is sexually molested, right? Before they become 18. That is the statistics at the level of UNICEF. Now, the question is, and it is important to note that this research that we're talking about, UNICEF, was 2015.
Yes.
So that research is almost 10 years old now. So it might not be an accurate representation of the state of affairs. Now, whether the question now is that, are we getting better, are we getting worse? I'm not able to speak to that in the immediate. But one thing that I know is that the world is changing, and one thing that parents need to learn, basically, is the fact that those who are committed to abusing our children are also changing in their enterprise. They are becoming more sophisticated. They are becoming more daring.
And they're online.
Committed.
Yeah.
And they're online, Taiwo.
Yes, and you see, during COVID, when everybody moved online, those who are also abusing children did not stop their enterprise because they also had to upgrade.
Yeah.
They also moved online, right? So a lot is happening. Now, I believe that abuse is preventable, because evil does not have what it takes to triumph over good. Anytime you see evil triumphing over good, it's because men and women of goodwill have folded their arms and do nothing. And so this kind of conversation that we are having becomes a major tool of transformation or change or equipment of people so that they can be enlightened. So for me, there are basic things that we must pay attention to. Number one, I salute the Nigerian parents. Nigerian parents is going through a lot. There's no nation on earth where it is solely the responsibility of parents to raise children. Only in Nigeria, only in Africa. Because parents take responsibility for everything. Public school system has failed, we take responsibility for private schools. Security has failed, we take responsibility for private security. So we are going through a lot. In the midst of that, we need to fend for these children. In the midst of that, we need to go out, we need to keep these children with some people, we need to put them in some schools. But there are fundamental things we need to keep in mind that since we are already laboring this way, it is important for us to pay some attention to some details. Number one, you don't keep your child to somebody you cannot vouch for, with a stranger. Who is a stranger? In the definition of Mr. Olakunle Soriyan, a stranger is somebody you cannot vouch for. In that regard, a stranger can be your mother.
Okay.
A stranger can be your father. A stranger can be your wife. A stranger can be your husband. A stranger can be your neighbor. My parents made the fundamental mistake of keeping me with a neighbor, thinking that because somebody is a neighbor, the person is a nanny. A neighbor is not a nanny now. The only place you find proximity between a neighbor as a nanny is inside English dictionary, because both of them start with N. Outside that, a neighbor is a neighbor. That somebody is living with you or you rent a house to the person does not mean the person is sane.
Yeah.
That you are sitting in the choir with somebody or you are in the mosque with somebody does not mean the person is sane. That somebody says he's a judge, or is a grandfather, or is a grandmother does not mean your children are safe with them. All of these people whom I've mentioned, they are in the categories of people that have abused children. Grandfathers have impregnated their grandchildren. We've seen all of that.
Yes.
Fathers have impregnated their children. Mothers have abused their children, including their stepchildren. So we've seen all of this. So the fundamental thing is that, can I vouch for this person? This word that we use loosely, a trusted adult, we use it so loosely. How do I arrive at that definition of a trusted adult? Is it because it's a church member, a mosque member, a Asheshe member, or because we live in the same apartment? Now, when I want to register my child in a school, does the school have in place a child safeguarding and protection policy or a child safeguarding and protection system codified into a policy, broken down into processes on which everybody is trained? Gone are those days when we just take our children to school because the school is close to us. Now, that's number one. Number two, we must teach our children sexuality education. They must be informed. My son is 4 years old. When I'm taking his bath in the morning, I'm talking to him. This is this place. This is this place. There's a song we composed, many years ago. He knows the song. He can sing it. Every part of my body is private to me. Nobody, because for children, there's no private part. There's no public part. We have misled our children by telling them that there's something called private part, public part. Every part of the body of the child is private. No human being has the right to touch any part except for the purpose of providing care or conscious affection. So there's no such thing as private part or public part for children, because those who abuse children don't start from the private part. There are 4 things abuser does. The first thing the abuser does is to profile a child. Number 2, the second thing the abuser does is to groom a child. What does grooming mean?
Yep.
To groom means to get a child to be comfortable with the abuser and comfortable with the abuse. The third thing the abuser does is to abuse the child. The fourth thing the abuser does is to manipulate the child, either through threat or subtleness, by telling the child, I will kill you and kill myself if you tell anybody, or you see, if you tell me, if you tell your daddy will not like it, your mommy will not believe you. Absolutely. We need to teach our children, they need to be aware of all of these things. Let me tell you a quick story. A teacher in Lagos sexually molested 17 children in a highbrow, high street, millions of naira paying school. It's not a small school. Abused 17 children sexually. Now, he profiled the 17 right, but he got to this 18th girl. And the way he starts is by profiling. He looks at the girl who he thinks is quiet, will not talk, and so he thought he got the profiling right. Then he asked the girl one question. A 13-year-old girl, are you a virgin? So the girl asked him, sir, what is the meaning of this question? Is this a question you should be asking a child? This not, I don't feel comfortable, sir. I want to leave. Because he was their music teacher. So he ran out of the music studio and went to tell the parents. By the second day, the parents stormed the school with their lawyer. Absolutely. And that's how, by the time they started investigation, they discovered that the girl was the 18th girl. Now, our own was an attempt. The remaining 17 were already touched by this same man, because he got his profiling and grooming right. Now, asking a child, are you a virgin, is grooming. Getting the child to be comfortable and testing the ground, getting the child to be comfortable with the whole idea of that nonsense conversation. Calling a child my wife, my husband. And I was in the school the other day. A boy came to get water at the water dispenser, and the receptionist said, my husband. I said, madam, he's not your husband. And by the time I went in to see the director of the school, I made it abundantly clear, this receptionist is a woman to watch. Why is he calling a boy? Because we don't want a boy to get used to what is wrong. Yeah. A boy is not a husband.
Taiwo, we can't just. We have a lot to unpack.
My head is spinning. I am
spinning. We cannot even finish this conversation in one. We have loads of questions, because I want to ask you about when children have become parents. You know, when
parentified.
You know, it's a We can't finish this conversation in one interview. We have to have, in fact, we might have like 3 parts to this, because there is no time, you can't even find the words. It's okay. Honestly.
Taiwo, what Lolo is trying to say is that in the past few minutes, or in the past 1 hour or so we've been talking to you, you've given us so much information. And I know that there are people out there who feel right now they're struggling to comprehend some of the things you said. And so, Taiwo, one thing I'm going to do is, we need to have your promise that you're going to come back. As Lolo said, we're probably going to have to make this a 3-part series with you. So first of all, give us your promise.
Now that I know that my sister is with you, anytime you come here, I'm
once we finish the show, me and you will talk and we'll lock it in. But Taiwo, it's a powerful conversation, and it's one that we have to continue to have. We wanted to ask more questions in terms about parenting. We wanted to ask questions about the gaps that there are in even child protection in Nigeria. Also, what to look for. You spoke a bit about how you reacted as a young child to the abuse and the violence, but then there can be some signs that parents and guardians and mandated reporters and teachers and communities need to be looking out for, but time is not on our side. So Taiwo, you're coming back. We're going to have you live in the studio as well, and we need to amplify this. And Taiwo, I have to say this, we rarely get male victims speaking out. And I have to say a very, very big thank you. I know it has not been easy work, but I have to say a very big thank you for you speaking out and using your voice. I remember many years ago when Chris Brown came out and he spoke about how he lost his virginity. He was actually molested. And when men speak about sexual abuse and molestation, it's received differently. It's almost like you should be happy because you became a man earlier, that a woman was attracted to you, a grown woman who should have known better. And so having someone like you use your voice and your platform to speak out is so, so important. So Taiwo, thank you. Thank you very, very much. And we look forward to having you back. I know people are not happy, but we have to go. Taiwo, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to keep saying
thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll talk again soon, Taiwo.
Yeah. Well, I do not even know how to, I'm a bit, maybe because I know Taiwo a little personally. Sometimes we're judging people's character because you do not actually know
what they've been
through. I knew him as a very aggressive person. He was a student union leader. He was very forceful. But
and now things are clicking.
Things are,
the picture is coming together.
I'm a bit... Maybe I'm overwhelmed.
We talk a lot about Nigerians walking around with trauma, and what we don't realize is that a lot of that trauma comes from the home, the parents, and the childhood. We'll continue these conversations. This is Jasiri. Have a great day.